You sit down at the negotiating table with a woman and, within the first 3 minutes, you make a fatal mistake. You play with your cards face up. You lay everything you have on the table, your admiration, your neediness, your readiness to pursue her for months. You show her your royal flush of affection, expecting her to do the same. But she just looks at you with a polite smile, sees your hand, says, "I'll call," takes your bet, and walks over to another player, the one whose card she couldn't read. Today, we are putting an end to this losing strategy once and for all. We're not going to learn how to be a nice guy. We're going to learn how to play the game. We will transform you from a naive amateur who loses all his chips in the first hand into a cool-headed master who controls the table, reads his opponent, and takes the pot whenever he decides. To do this, we'll have to delve into the fundamentals of human psychology, where masters like Freud and Jung understood the primary law a century ago. People never speak directly about their true desires. Their real cards are always hidden in the subconscious. Women, by their nature, instinctively sense this hidden game, while a man needs to master its rules through intellect and strategy. But before we break down the first bet, please give this video a like in advance. It will help it break through the algorithms. And if you're new here and ready to learn the rules of the real game, subscribe, because we're only going deeper from here. And before we begin, a quick question to get to know our audience. Write in the comments which card game you prefer, poker or maybe blackjack. I'm very curious to know. Part 1, the opening bet, the art of first contact. So you're at the table. And your first bet is your attention, the fundamental currency in the world of human relationships. Most men here make one of 2 catastrophic mistakes. The first mistake is going all in immediately. A man sees a woman and shines a spotlight of attention on her, showering her with compliments about her appearance. In the language of psychology, this sends 3 signals. You are needy, your value is low, and the game is over before it even began. All the intrigue and thrill of discovery are killed in the first few minutes because a free resource is never valued. She simply gets bored. The second mistake is the other extreme, attempting to fold. After reading some advice online, a man might demonstratively ignore a woman, looking at his phone when she talks, giving one-word answers, turning away. He thinks he's creating the image of a busy and in-demand man, but he actually comes off as someone with bad manners. In poker terms, this is a fold. You're discarding your cards without even entering the game. A mature, experienced woman won't see any mystery in this. She'll see disrespect and simply turn her attention to someone who knows how to hold a conversation. The only correct strategy is the calibrated bet. You don't bet everything, and you don't fold. You make a small, calculated bet to stay in the game. In practice, this means giving attention that is not total, but measured and of high quality. Instead of saying, "You have beautiful eyes," you listen to what she says and respond to the substance. For example, after she tells a story about a trip, you might reply, "That's an interesting perspective. I've never thought about it that way." With this move, you show that you're listening and interested, but you're evaluating her mind, not just her appearance. You shift the game to a person-to-person level and make her wonder, so what cards is he holding? After making the first bet, you need to strengthen your position using the busy player effect. The best poker player watches the entire table, not just one opponent. Your task is to become that player. Don't focus 100% of your energy on her alone. Distribute your attention between her and your surroundings. This creates social proof of your value and triggers her competitive instincts, as she subconsciously understands that there are other contenders for your attention. The value of your focus automatically increases in her eyes. Putting this into practice is simple. In a group, talk to other people first. and only then start a more personal dialogue with her. If you're one-on-one, use pauses to think, looking out a window for a moment. This isn't ignoring her. It's demonstrating a rich inner world. However, avoid the mistake of fake busyness. Don't grab your phone every 2 minutes. The busy player effect is a state of inner calm and self-sufficiency. You aren't trying to seem busy. You are busy with your own life. When she senses this, she will want to become the main event of your evening. And that will mean you have successfully completed the first stage and are ready to start reading her cards. Part 2. Reading the tells, her body language. You've made your opening bet. Now begins the most subtle part of the game, reading your opponent. A professional poker player spends most of their time watching the other players, not their own cards. They look for tells, tiny, involuntary reactions that reveal the true strength of a hand. In communication with a woman, it's exactly the same. Her words are just the tip of the iceberg, the official version of events. Her true cards, her interest or lack thereof, are revealed through her body language. Your task is to become a master observer who sees what is hidden from the average person's eyes. We will break down the 3 key channels through which she subconsciously broadcasts the whole truth to you. Her eyes, her hands, and her body in space. Let's start with the most important channel, the eyes. There's an old saying, the eyes are the window to the soul. In our case, the eyes are the indicator of her level of engagement in the game. The first and most obvious sign is direct, sustained eye contact. If, during a conversation, she doesn't just glance at you, but holds your gaze for several seconds while listening or speaking, it's a powerful signal of interest. This is her subconscious attempt to establish a deeper connection. There's a difference between an interested gaze and a polite one. A polite gaze is often social. It scans your face, but doesn't focus deeply. True interest is shown when her gaze becomes more intent. And if you notice that her pupils are slightly dilated, it's almost irrefutable proof. Pupil dilation is a reaction of the autonomic nervous system to something interesting and exciting, and this process is nearly impossible to control consciously. The second aspect of her gaze is its trajectory. Where does she look when she looks away? If she looks to the side or down, and then brings her gaze back to you with a slight smile, it's a sign of shyness mixed with interest. This is a classic female signal that says, I like you, but I don't want to show it too openly. However, if she constantly looks away, up, or to the sides at other people or the exit, it's a bad sign indicating boredom. Pay special attention to the so-called triangle when her gaze starts moving from your eyes to your lips and back. This is a powerful nonverbal signal that she is thinking about a kiss. The third signal is the fleeting glance from a distance. If you catch her looking at you and she immediately turns away upon being noticed, that is her check. She is checking to see if you are looking at her. 2 or 3 such glances are no longer a coincidence. They are an invitation to play. Now let's move on to the hands, the second most important source of truthful information. The most well-known gesture is playing with her hair. When a woman starts twirling a lock of hair around her finger or adjusting her hairstyle, it is, in most cases, a subconscious gesture to draw attention to herself, a form of flirtation. Another important marker is what she does with objects, such as a wine glass. If she slowly runs her finger along the stem, swirls the glass, and looks at you over the rim, it's a very strong flirtatious signal. She is transferring her tactile sensations onto the object. Also, pay attention to her jewelry. If she starts fiddling with an earring or a necklace, it's often a sign of nervousness. Combined with a smile and eye contact, this is positive nervousness. Finally, let's consider the position of her body in space, the most honest channel of information. The first rule is the direction of her feet. Where her feet are pointed is where her true desire is to move. If her torso is turned towards you, but her feet are pointing to the side. Her subconscious is already prepared to leave. The second important aspect is distance. In psychology, there is the concept of an intimate zone. If a woman allows you to enter this zone without visible discomfort, it's a sign of trust and interest. And the third, most subtle point is mirroring. This is when a person unconsciously starts copying your posture and gestures. It's an ancient mechanism that signals, I am like you. We are on the same team. If you notice that she is mirroring you, that's the jackpot. It means that on a subconscious level, a rapport has been established between you, a state of deep trust. By learning to read these three channels, you gain a huge advantage. You stop guessing and start knowing. Part 3. The Art of the Bluff. Creating deep intrigue. You've learned to read her tells. You can see her interest is growing. And it's at this very moment that 99% of men make the same mistake. They relax and start playing with an open hand. They see her smile, her interested gaze, and decide the deal is done. They start to push, increase the compliments, and show all their interest, once again laying all their cards on the table. And in that moment, the magic disappears. An experienced player knows that when an opponent shows interest, it's not a reason to reveal your cards. It's a reason to bluff. We are now entering the most intense and crucial phase of the game, creating intrigue through strategic indifference. This is not manipulation in a negative sense. This is the pinnacle of psychology that separates the master from the amateur. What is strategic indifference? It is not coldness, rudeness, or ignoring someone. It's a state in which you show your interest and then take a slight, almost imperceptible step back. You create cognitive dissonance in her mind, making her doubt, does he really like me? Or did I imagine it? This question, what if, is the most powerful fuel for a woman's interest. As long as she is certain of your affection, you are an open book to her. As soon as she has doubts, you become a thrilling novel that's impossible to put down. Her brain instinctively tries to close this loop, to solve this puzzle. And to do that, she is forced to start taking action herself, to start investing her own attention, emotions, and time in you. She begins to raise the stakes to get confirmation of your interest from you. Let's break down how this works in practice. Imagine you're having a fascinating conversation with her. You're both laughing, and there's a clear chemistry between you. You lean in and say something like, "You have an amazing sense of humor. It's incredibly easy to talk to you." You've given her a powerful hot signal of interest. She relaxes, smiles, and expects more. And this is where you apply the bluff. Instead of continuing to press that pedal, you take a micro step back. You lean back in your chair, take a sip of your drink, and change the topic to something neutral. Or you turn to someone else at the table with a brief question, and then return your attention to her a minute later. What just happened in her mind? She experienced a surge of positive emotions, followed by a slight confusion. Her brain registered this contrast. It's like a seesaw, up and down. It is this very amplitude that creates an emotional attachment, far stronger than the steady, predictable line of behavior of a nice guy. Another powerful bluffing tool is the open loop principle in dialogue. Most men strive to finish every thought, to answer every question exhaustively, as if it were an exam. A master, on the other hand, leaves things unsaid. For example, she asks you about your work. Instead of detailing your responsibilities, you might say, "Mostly, I solve problems that other people think are unsolvable. Sometimes it leads to very funny situations. I'll have to tell you the story about this one time in Zurich. It was something else. And that's it. You don't tell the story now. You've created intrigue, outlined a plot, and left it open. Now in her mind, there is a file named the Zurich story. And to access it, she needs to continue the conversation, to stay in the game. You're not just answering questions. You're creating material for future meetings. It is here that we can turn to Freud's ideas about unconscious attraction. Freud argued that we are attracted not to what we fully understand and control, but to what contains an element of mystery, something hidden. When you are completely open and predictable, you appeal only to her conscious mind, to her logic. But when you use bluffing, understatement, and a slight detachment, you begin to speak directly to her subconscious. You become an object for her to figure out, a puzzle that occupies her thoughts even when you are not around. She starts replaying your conversations in her head, analyzing your words and actions. This is the beginning of emotional investment. She is no longer just a passive observer. She is an active participant trying to understand the rules of the game and anticipate your next move. You have ceased to be just a man to her. You have become the game itself. And that is precisely the role that fascinates. And finally, the pinnacle of the art of bluffing is demonstrating alternatives. But not in the way insecure people do it, through boasting or talking about exes. It is done subtly, through indirect hints and social dynamics. For example, your phone rings during your conversation with her. You decline the call, but say with a slight smile, "I'll deal with that later." These event organizers can never decide anything without me. With this one sentence, without bragging, you have told her several things. You are in demand. You solve problems, and you have a life and interests outside of this table. Or, for instance, you tell a story in which you briefly mention a female acquaintance, an expert in some field, whom you consulted. You don't speak of her as a romantic interest, but simply show that there are other valuable people in your world, including women. This makes her subconsciously realize that you are a prize for which there is competition. A man who is completely focused on one woman inadvertently shows that he has no other options. A man who artfully bluffs shows that he has chosen to spend time with her, even though he had other possibilities. And the value of that choice in her eyes increases tenfold. This is how, step by step, you create the very intrigue that turns her from a spectator into an avid player, ready to risk it all, not to lose you. It is this level of depth that you will find in every one of my videos. If this is the approach you have been looking for, now is the perfect time to subscribe. Part 4, Raising the Stakes, Escalation. You've created intrigue. You see that she is in the game. She laughs at your jokes, asks personal questions. Her body language signals interest, and most importantly, she's afraid of losing you. She has started to invest. Now it's time to raise the stakes. If the previous stages were a game of mind and observation, this stage is the transition from words to actions. Escalation is the gradual and confident closing of the distance, both physical and emotional. It is the bridge you build from pleasant conversation to physical intimacy. And like any good engineer, you must have a clear plan and the ability to feel the structure. Raising the stakes too quickly or clumsily can destroy everything you've built. Proper escalation, however, looks so natural that she doesn't even notice herself crossing to the other side of the bridge. Right next to you, there are two types of escalation, psychological and kinesthetic, which is through touch. And you should always start with the first. Psychological escalation is about deepening the topics of conversation. You gradually move away from superficial, social topics, work, news, to more personal and emotional ones. The goal here is not just to learn facts about her, but to understand her feelings, values, and dreams. This is done through the right questions. Instead of, "Where do you work?" ask, "What about your job makes you feel like you're in the right place?" Instead of, "Do you like to travel?" ask, "What trip changed your perspective on the world?" See the difference? The first question is for a form. The second is for the soul. By asking such questions, you show that you are interested not in her social role, but in her personality. You invite her to be open, and if she accepts this invitation, her level of trust in you will grow rapidly. The most important tool of psychological escalation is the ability to share your own vulnerability in return. But there's a trap here. Many men confuse vulnerability with complaining. They start talking about how their boss doesn't appreciate them or how unfair life is. This is not vulnerability. It's weakness. True, strong vulnerability is when you share a personal experience or an opinion that may not be popular, but it is yours, and it is honest. For example, you might talk about a failure you had, but not from the position of a victim, but from the perspective of a lesson you learned. There was a time when I was chasing only money and almost lost the people closest to me. It was a cold shower that forced me to completely re-evaluate my values. In this way, you are not complaining, but showing your depth, your capacity for reflection and growth. This evokes respect, not pity. And when she sees that you trust her with such things, she is much more likely to trust you with something personal in return. Once psychological contact is established and you feel there is trust between you, it's time for kinesthetic escalation. This is the art of touch. The main rule here is gradualness and calibration. You should not go from a complete lack of physical contact straight to an embrace. It should be a series of small, almost imperceptible steps. Start with so-called socially acceptable touches. For example, you're telling a funny story and at the climax, you lightly touch her forearm or shoulder. It lasts a second, no more. Or you're passing her in a narrow space and momentarily place your hand on her lower back to let her pass. These gestures are on the borderline between politeness and flirting. Their main purpose is to test her reaction. If she reacts calmly, doesn't pull away, maybe even smiles, you've received a call. Your bet is accepted. This is a green light to continue the game with the same minimal stakes. The next time, you can allow the touch to linger for a fraction of a second longer. If, however, she tenses up, instinctively recoils, or her expression changes, that's a fold. She is not ready for that level. And here it is crucial to react correctly, immediately, without the slightest awkwardness. Remove your hand and return to the interesting conversation as if nothing happened. Don't apologize. Don't make an event out of it. You simply conducted reconnaissance, received information, and adjusted your strategy. A weak player would get offended or embarrassed. A strong player will simply take the information on board and continue to create psychological comfort, postponing the next physical move for later. Once you are sure that light, casual touches are received well, you can move to the next level, more deliberate and prolonged contact. The key word here is justification. Every touch you make should have a logical, even if formal, excuse. This allows her to accept it without feeling pressured. For example, you notice a non-existent eyelash on her cheek. You say, "Wait, you have something here," and very gently, with your fingertips, you brush it away. Or you are sitting next to each other, looking at something on your phone, and your shoulders touch. Don't pull away immediately. Let the contact last for a few seconds. Another classic move. Ask to see her ring or bracelet. You take her hand, examine the jewelry, perhaps compliment her delicate fingers, and hold her hand in yours for a couple of seconds longer than strictly necessary. In these moments, you are not just touching her. You are testing her readiness for more intimate contact within a safe, socially acceptable framework. The pinnacle of kinesthetic escalation is leading. This is no longer just about touching, but about taking physical leadership. Leading is a powerful nonverbal signal of confidence and care. When you walk through a crowd together, you don't just walk beside her. You place your hand on her lower back or slightly above and gently guide her, clearing a path. When you approach a door, you open it for her, and as you let her pass, You again lightly touch her back. When you sit down at a table in a restaurant, you help her with her chair. These are not old-fashioned manners. They are a demonstration of control over the space and the situation. You don't ask for permission. You act. And for a woman who is in a state of interest and trust, such confident leading feels like a relief. She can relax and let you be the man. Every such action is another raise of the stakes, which she gladly accepts because it is backed by all your previous behavior. Your intelligence, your humor, your perceptiveness, and your respect for her boundaries. But the whole essence of escalation is a smooth dance where you are the lead partner. You take a step and watch how she responds. If she takes a step toward you, or at least stays in place, you take the next one. If she takes a step back, you take a step back with her to restore a comfortable distance and continue to whirl her in the rhythm of conversation until she is ready to move forward again. A man who cannot escalate is doomed to remain in the friend zone. He can have the most heartfelt conversations for hours, but never dare to close the distance. A man who escalates too crudely and quickly comes across as a predator and causes rejection. Only the master player understands that escalation is an art. It is the gradual building of tension and trust that leads both players to the climax, to the moment when all the chips are on the table and there is only one final, decisive move to make. Part 5. All in, the final move. You have gone through all the betting rounds. You made the opening bet, read her cards through her body language, bluffed skillfully to create intrigue, and gradually raised the stakes, escalating tension and trust. The table is set. The chips are in the center. The air is electric. The moment has come that in poker is called the river. The last card is dealt, and there are no more moves to be made. There is only one thing left to do. Go all in. This is the culminating moment, the point of no return, where all your previous work is tested. A mistake at this stage will undo all your achievements, but the right, timely, and confident move will bring you victory. And the main secret of this move is that it must be a statement, not a question. The first thing to understand is how to recognize that very moment. Peak tension is not some mystical substance. It has very specific signs. It's the moment when the conversation naturally lulls, but the silence doesn't become awkward. On the contrary, it becomes telling. You look at each other, and in that gaze, there is no longer simple interest. There is anticipation. It's that triangle we talked about. Her gaze glides from your eyes to your lips. Her breathing might become a little deeper. She might unconsciously lick her lips. All her nonverbal signals, which were previously separate clues, now merge into one powerful chord that sounds like yes. This is the moment when her level of trust and attraction to you is at its maximum. Hesitation at this point is a crime. If you miss this wave, it will recede, and there may not be another one. The woman's brain will switch from emotional mode to analytical mode, and she will begin to doubt. Maybe I imagined it? So, you've recognized the moment. What's next? 90% of men will ask for permission here. They'll say something like, "Can I kiss you?" This is the worst thing you can do. This question instantly shatters all the magic, all the tension you've built so carefully. It shifts the entire responsibility for the decision onto her and transforms you from a confident leader into a begging boy. She wanted to be swept up in the flow of events, and you're asking her to fill out a bureaucratic form. A real player never asks. He acts, but he acts not crudely, but elegantly. Your final move is a nonverbal command. It is a combination of a look, a pause, and a confident movement. Here is how it looks, step by step. You have caught her gaze. You look into her eyes for a few seconds, then slowly move your gaze to her lips and back. You do this openly, without hiding it. With this, you non-verbally communicate your intentions. Then you pause, a short pause for 1 or 2 seconds. This pause is the most powerful weapon in your arsenal. In this moment, time seems to slow down. You are giving her the opportunity to pull away if she is not ready. If she stays in place, continuing to look at you, you have received her silent consent. This is her final call. And only after that, you smoothly, without any fuss or abrupt movements, close the remaining distance and kiss her. There's no need to lunge at her as if it's your last chance. It should be a confident but gentle kiss. You are not taking, but giving. You are not asking, but affirming a fact that has already ripened between you. This entire strategy, from the first glance to the final move, is subject to one idea which can be borrowed from the great strategist, Carl von Clausewitz, and applied to our game. The purpose of any war is peace, but on your terms. Your goal is not to conquer a woman, but to create a relationship with her where there is mutual respect and attraction. But the initiative and control over the development of the situation must be in your hands. When you play honestly and openly, you give her control. When you think like a cool-headed player, you control the game. She may have a stronger hand by nature, youth, beauty. But in the end, it's not the one with the better cards who wins, but the one who plays better. She didn't go all in because you forced her to. She did it because you created a game so exciting that she herself wanted to risk everything to win it. Or, even better, to win it together with you. Conclusion: the winner's philosophy, so the game is over. The pot is yours. But what have you really won? If you think the main prize is the woman sitting next to you, you have only understood half the lesson. The real prize is the transformation that has occurred within you. You are no longer a predictable victim of circumstances, a passive observer hoping for a lucky hand. You have become a player. You have learned the most important thing: how to control not her, but the reality around you through composure, observation, and strategic thinking. You have understood that your calmness is your main trump card. Your ability to read nonverbal signals is your advantage. Your capacity to create intrigue and not to rush is your strength. These principles extend far beyond the poker table or a date. This is a philosophy of life. In business, in negotiations, you will stop laying all your terms on the table at the very beginning. You will make calibrated bets, read the body language of your partners and opponents, create intrigue, and raise the stakes only when you feel the situation is ripe. You will learn not to react emotionally to provocations, but to pause and make a decision with a cool head. In your interactions with your children, with friends, with anyone, you will begin to see not only what people say, but what they truly feel and want. You will become a master of context. And that is what distinguishes a man from a boy. A boy plays with emotions. A man plays with strategy. Ultimately, a woman respects not your cards, not your bank account, not your job title, not your muscles. Of course, these can be nice additions. But the true, deep respect that forms the basis of lasting attraction is inspired by your ability to play the game. Your mastery. Your ability to maintain composure under pressure. Your confidence, which is built not on external attributes, but on an inner core and an understanding of the rules of the game. She respects not the resource, but the ability to manage it. By becoming such a player, you cease to be a victim of her emotional games or bad moods. You become the one who sets the rules and leads the game. You become the center of the table where all the real action happens. And that is a win that will stay with you forever, no matter what cards life deals you next. And now, the main question for you, for the people with experience. Describe in the comments the most telling case from your life when composure and a strategic bluff helped you achieve victory, not just with a woman, but in life, in business, in negotiations. Let's collect a true encyclopedia of masculine wisdom in the comments.